Okay, so welcome to the Node.js N-API Team meeting for February 11th, 2019. We'll follow our standard agenda, which is to go through the things that we have planned for in our current milestone. Before we start doing that, is there anything that people wanted to discuss or bring up? No? Okay, I'm going to have to pull that back up. Here we go. Just pulling the milestone, and then I'll share it. I don't think that's right, unless I have the wrong repo, sorry. Okay, so here I will share that. Sorry if it's a little bit loud here, but okay, so sorry. Okay, the first issue on the list is the backports for the TFSN. So Gabriel, I know you're working on those.
Oh, here we go. There's a bit of a delay when I clicked on mute.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, it's status quo on them. The tests are green, and I'm just waiting for them to land, both PRs for 10 and for 8.
Okay. So just a matter of new releases going out. Otherwise, we're good.
Yeah. And there are, I believe, and we're just talking about the unexperimentaling PRs. I think all the other ones, like the actual backport, is done. It's just the marking them as non-experimental that's still pending.
Okay, so you mean like 10? I thought we ended up doing it as a single backport for 8 and 10.
No, because it landed just as I was about to add the commit to the list of commits that are backported. So
okay.
So the implementation landed like hours before I wanted to add another commit to the backport, and so as a result, there's a second backport PR now.
Okay, but anyway, they'll be in, and that's what's important. So
Yeah. Should be good.
Okay. Next one, focus on async worker. I don't know if we've made any progress on that. Anybody's have any comments or discussions?
Yeah. So I had trouble with my suppressed destruct PR because it's sec faulting on OS 10, and I just got access to one of the OS 10 machines from Raphael, and so I'm going to debug it there. I don't know what's going on. It seems really strange. It's as if when you declare a static variable inside a class, and you have two different shared objects which both have that class, somehow the data symbol is being shared between the two shared objects. And then so I figured, okay, if that happens, I'll just stick it in an anonymous namespace, and that'll be like, static only to the file and not to, like, it should be static inside the file, so it should not be seen. The symbol shouldn't be seen at all, but then it just sec faulted, and I have no idea where it sec faults. But the correct solution is to wrap the whole class in an anonymous namespace. And so
when you say shared, you mean like two instances of the class?
I don't know what it is. So there's a class declaration, and it has a static variable, right?
Right.
Of type pointer. And so for debugging, I did like, fprintf ampersand the variable to see where in memory the variable gets stored, right? And on Linux, we compile each test add-on twice, right? We compile with exceptions and without exceptions, without C++ exceptions and with, and we load both of them into the same process, right? When we run tests, and so this printing out of the address of the static variable prints out the pointer twice, right? And in Linux, those are two different pointers, but on OS X they are the same pointer, which is unheard of, because why do they overlap in memory? Does OS X do some kind of really weird symbol merging or whatever? Like, we're talking about two different shared objects exporting two different symbols that just happen to have the same name, but they should be located elsewhere in memory, and they sure as heck shouldn't be shared in any way, because they're two different libraries. I should get a symbol clash or something and refuse to load the second one, or some sort of more normal resolution. So I have no idea what's going on over there.
Two instances of the same class. It's two different shared libraries, each which you expected to have their own symbols.
Yeah, I mean, they do on Linux. Linux doesn't have any trouble with that. But then I guess it does scope things better, maybe. I don't know, honestly. And I suspect that something else might also be fishy, because when I do wrap the whole thing in an anonymous namespace, it should not segfault, because at that point it's all local. So that's why I need access to the Mac, so I can see why it segfaults, because there might be something else entirely wrong with the code.
Right. Okay.
That this might just be like a weird side effect.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Will be interesting to hear.
I know. Yeah, so I'll be debugging that next.
Okay. So yeah, that's the next step on that one. Then on to some of the modules. So this is issue number 346 that were a challenge for one of the V8 updates. Serial port. I know, Glenn, you've been looking at that, and it turns out that there's a lot more dependencies on libuv than we expected, right?
Yeah, so I've learned a lot, and thank you for everyone's patience. I haven't written any C++ in a few years. I've come back, and it's all come flooding back to me after being away from AT&T and Bell Labs for all these years. But what I did notice, firstly, was people have written things, and they're in the wild as if libuv was not going to change. And when Gabriel posted the other library, I've forgotten the library's name, but it's used in the ping utilities, that has even more downloads, like 400,000 downloads a week, and it does exactly the same thing. They're essentially polling file descriptors using libuv. And I'm not going to say any more, but we perhaps may need to rethink about that as not being part of the stable interface, or we may need to pull a little piece out. As we discover more modules in the maintenance thing, we're going to learn more. So that's all I'm going to say there. But I think there is an opportunity.
Right. Normally that's okay, because usually, like, if non-NAPI modules cannot be loaded if the ABI version is different, and the ABI version would be different if libuv is different. So it's only when you get to NAPI that it kind of disqualifies you from the benefits if you're trying to use libuv. For regular modules, V8 might change, libuv may change, but it's all bundled into that one ABI number. And I guess that's where our other discussion around, can we break those numbers out or whatever, so that you could at least use NAPI effectively, and then only have to have new binaries when there's a new libuv version or something like that. I guess so go ahead.
Yeah, so the good thing is it does actually appear that I know the people that own this module, although I didn't know they own the module.
Okay.
So I'll probably meet them on Wednesday night. I kind of met them the other week, but they weren't there. They were busy. So we'll have a good interaction, but I think we'll have to ask some questions before we proceed, because they're making heavy use of that library.
Right, okay. I think I'd asked that, and my impression that it wasn't the case, but who knows? I probably misunderstood, or things changed. But okay, but no, that's good. It's good to like you said, learn more, and I think it'll help us figure out what the path forward might be on a few other things as well. Looking at the other ones, ICOM. So I know, Nikolai, you'd asked if maybe you could take that one over in the issue. I haven't seen if there was any answer or anything like that.
Yeah, okay. I will work this week because no one answered me. So I will address all the comments on the PR and try to finish this porting.
Okay, sounds good. Bcrypt, anything new on that front?
They just merged my PR in a branch called N-API, and 5 days ago updated the NaN version, and I think that they preferred modify update the add-on using the NaN.
Okay, so they're not necessarily ready to move over to an NAPI version.
Yeah, but I will try time to time to pick them about this. Maybe for now they don't want proceed in this
Sure.
manner.
Okay, yeah, maybe they need more time or whatever. Level down, I think Hitesh, you were gonna start looking at that one.
Yeah, I talked to the owners and they said that the next version of Level Down will be NAPI enabled.
Okay, I guess then maybe if you can just update that table, because that's something you can do. Yeah, you create it, so maybe you can just update the table to update to reflect that. That's good news.
Okay, I can do that.
Micro time is landed, so that's good. Time, so Glenn, you have a PR for that one?
Yes, so I didn't quite realize when I was doing the PR for this guy quite who he was. He's done a lot. So last time I said, have you had another look? He has reviewed them once and he asked me to make changes. I made the changes and 4 days ago said, have you had another look? But soon as he wrote no JIP and all those other things, I think he's a fairly busy guy and he'll get around to it when he gets around to it.
Okay, but we're well in way for that one. That's good. SQLite, I got together with Jim earlier this week, and Jim, do you have an update that you want to give?
Yeah, I do. So I've taken ownership of this particular one, and what I've done is I've forked off of the original repo, and I'm now working through the commits that have been done previously to update them. The commits go back 2 years, so I need to roll those forward. So I'm in that process now.
Right.
So our objective is to get it working up to the point that we need to address the libuv dependencies, and then investigate the libuv dependencies more carefully to see how we address those.
Yeah, we're still hopeful we can use the async worker that we already have for that. It's just not as straightforward as we'd like. So.
Right.
Okay. Node report we've already talked about. Really, it's landed in core. So, and then we've 0MQ. We've already got next generation version on the roadmap. So I think we're good on that one, unless anybody has something else to bring up.
Maybe I found one called Node raw socket, and I think maybe we should add that to the list because it also has like 400,000 or so weekly downloads. I put it in a comment on that issue, but I wasn't sure if I should put it on the list. But I guess it sounds like we.
Is it a fairly is it a straightforward one, or it's just the downloads?
Yeah, I didn't actually look at it. I just saw that it's quite popular and not using an API, so I figured.
Okay.
I think 400-something thousand brings it into the fairly popular range, right?
What I'd suggest is we should have like a, top modules to port issue.
Oh, and it being a socket related package, I guess it also makes heavy use of libuv precisely because of that. Yeah, because it does things like ping and stuff. So for that, you need pretty low-level access.
Well, it's either you use libuv or you use the OS level stuff.
Yeah, I think it's libuv because like even if you use the OS level stuff for creating the socket, integrating it with the event loop and passing it you know, passing the file descriptor is probably something that you'll want to do with libuv.
Okay, so I mean,
that's where the buck stops, kind of.
I guess my first thought would be, like, those have been the ones we've said really aren't good candidates yet. So maybe we need to work through the other, you know, the ABI numbering and all that before we start to push on those.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah,
because with the current numbering or whatever, we really say no, you wouldn't want to do that because you lose the.
So have there been ABI breaks within libuv, like within like different minor versions?
Not within minors, but they're planning a.
Okay, I think Michael got interrupted. Michael, you got interrupted.
Oh yeah, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, they are planning a 2.x. I mean, we've had a bunch of discussions around, well, can we assume it's stable or not? And the answer was no, we're planning a 2.x. But of course, they don't break things in the minors.
Okay, so, but are there ABI inconsistencies across vendors? Like, if Debian ships libuv 1.23 and Electron ships libuv 1.23, then can we assume that they are ABI compatible with one another? Because like
I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure that they actually break those out. Like, I know that the distributions do break out some things like OpenSSL, but I don't know that libuv is one of those.
Okay, yeah, we should check, but yeah, I think maybe Debian does, because I believe Debian does have a separate libuv package. We should probably check that.
Right, but I guess even okay, so if it's different versions of Node, you get different versions of libuv, and yeah. Like I think within they follow Semver, right? So within, we're not going to pick up a Semver breaking libuv in a particular release, right? But in a subsequent release, we could pick up the breaking version. And so, your idea around having multiple ABI numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that basically, you could, if you could specify your N-API, but you care about libuv, and then the module wouldn't load if it was, a different version of libuv. I think that's the kind of protection we need to sort of, be able to say, okay, now let's try and tackle the ones that actually use libuv quite a bit.
Right. Yeah.
So instead of push, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. I did have a quick look at that, Gabriel. So hi, Gabriel. I was following what you said, and it looks very much like the same thing as the Node serial port does. Basically, people want to get an indication, on a port, a file description when it's opened and changed. And it looked like those, they were doing the same thing. And I wonder how many more people are doing this same thing.
How many types of sockets are there?
Well, people love sockets.
Yeah. Because it gets back to the discussion of, we don't want to wrap all of the libuv, right? If it's some small portion, like if it was 1 or 2 calls that was required in both of these cases, that might make sense. But if it's like, all of the socket APIs, well, then that doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think.
What I'll do is, for the next meeting, I'll go away and actually list down what it is, because I think it is actually a small subset. They're just polling them. What they want is that event coming back, so they go and do something.
Okay, so they're basically using so they're using the native tools and stuff to open up the sockets, like the native calls to open the sockets, but then they're polling them with libuv.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that could make some sense if it was like, some small subset we could consider if we should add that to N-API itself. Okay. No, yeah, that'd be very useful to come back with that list. And I think also, do we have an issue open, Gabriel, where you're pushing on? I know you do in the Node repo, maybe that's enough, but like, we should probably, see if we can push to what we think would make sense in terms of that ABI checking.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to redo the PR such that it is N-API specific. So that's probably my action item for next week, or for this week rather.
Okay.
to get that going. It does involve like so some of the refactoring that I've done in the existing PR is going to have to stay because we have a fundamental problem where so some of the constants that we need are declared in like Node.h, and Node.h can only be included from C++. And so those parts of Node.h which are really C++ agnostic should not be inside Node.h because there's no reason. So that's part of the refactor is to pull that stuff out of Node.h, and that's a pretty big reshuffle. So that Raphael has already remarked that may be Semver major, though I don't see why, because we don't support copying files out of tree, right? Because that's not part of the Semver commitment, right? And
but the modules can include that file, right? So basically, you can include if including the file no longer gets you what you need.
No, but it does, right?
Okay.
It's just there are, because Node.h now includes like Node ABI versions.h, right? Whereas and like Node add-on macros.h, and so which defines all the things that Node.h defined itself before, right?
Okay.
But now those things can be included without having to include the entirety of Node.h, which cannot be done from a file compiled with a C compiler rather than a C++ compiler.
Right. Okay,
so
got
it still gets you everything. It's just it's not in line anymore. It's included.
Okay.
So, but that's why I kind of don't agree with Raphael. Like it's not Semver major. It's because you still get everything you got before.
Yep.
But it is borderline because it's a fairly big shakeup. So
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, So
we can work through that but okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's the next step. We can take a look at that and Okay. SQLite we already talked about. Issues raised by module owners or the list of issues in the Node repo. Are there any particular ones to bring up?
Just the small one about the weak callback. Somebody reported that we should not allow calls into the engine from the weak callback because the engine is in or the heap is in an inconsistent state during garbage collection, which is when these weak callbacks get called. However, V8 provides sort of a second pass callback, which provides the opportunity to attach a second pass weak callback, which is called from the first pass weak callback, and the second pass, by the time the second pass weak callback gets called, the heap is in a consistent state, and so basically we sort of do this ping pong where the first line weak callback resets the reference and attaches the second pass weak callback, and then that one runs the N-API weak callback, which is then free to call into the engine all it wants.
Right.
So this hasn't resulted in any crashes so far, but it is apparently a race condition in the sense that you could run into a situation where the heap just happens to be inconsistent. It's just never happened before, but the possibility is open, and so the PR for doing this ping ponging is now pretty much on rails. I have to check on the status of the CI and then land it, and then comes the backporting to version 10 and version 8 of that PR, and that's about it from the N-API bugs side.
Yeah, it was lucky. There seemed to be a pretty straightforward fix to that one. So
yes, and the fix is available all the way back to Node 6. So
so
the same fix can be applied as we back.
That's good. Okay. Good. And I don't think we have anything new on the create matrix of tested methods. So that's the end of what we have in the current milestone. So I guess that's what we have to talk about. I was just going to ask, sorry, now it's not showing me people's names, but so Jared, I wondered if you just wanted to introduce yourself, since, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the first time I've seen you on the call with us.
Yeah, of course. You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, just joining as an interested guest. I got in PR in against the N-API. I'm not sure. I think Michael's reviewed it and some other people just trying to add some things that I saw were missing. Actually, I think they came out of the SQLite thread that I saw. They were missing some stuff from there for isDate and isRegex. So trying to get some of those in and just sort of joining as an interested party as to how the meetings are run here and what you guys talk about.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So the isDate one, I do remember that one. I was wondering, is for some reason I thought like maybe there was a new date feature in JavaScript, so it's not necessarily related to that though.
No, it's just exposing through the N-API access to those objects.
Okay. Okay.
To create
Great.
them. And they were looking for the is methods essentially, really, in that one part. And I think they worked around it using something in the C++ wrappers they were able to use to work around not having a real native one in the N-API, but
Yep.
figured it'd be something we should add. So.
Okay. And Hitesh, just quick question: did Chakrakor have like an isDate? I guess there's probably a way to check regardless.
Yeah, I checked there. They don't have one, but I'm going to look at putting it there before I try to make a PR against the C++ one so that it's across there. I'll take a look at that as well.
It should be fairly straightforward to add that to Chakrakor.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks, and you're welcome to come and participate here. So it's good to see you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other topics people want to bring up before we close the call out?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Talk to everybody next time.
All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.